All right, so this is Man of Steel, obviously directed by Zack Snyder. I wanted to revisit it because we got the new Superman movie that just came out. I haven't seen it yet. We'll see how that turns out. But I wanted to go back and see, I thought this movie was just okay, and the ending is terrible, but it's it's okay. Watching it now, rewatching it for this, I do feel more negative than I did when I originally saw it, but we'll get into all that. So in this, we start off on Krypton. We spend way too mumuch time on Krypton. We start off with Jor-El, played by Russell Crowe. He is talking to the leaders of Krypton, the council that runs Krypton, and he's telling them about, oh, we need to do something. Obviously, they already know that the planet is doomed at this point, and that it's gonna explode. And he's trying to get them to really, focus on the new generation of Kryptonians, where like they'll die, but hopefully their Krypton can live on in his people and things like that. But it doesn't seem like they're really willing to do anything. General Zod, played by Michael Shannon, he's like the leader of their military. He comes in and he kills one of them and pretty much takes over, and then this huge battle on Krypton kicks off. So Jor-El at that point decides, okay, I'm gonna jump into this this I guess the chamber is in the water where they make their people, or their children, their babies are created, because they don't have natural births other than Kal-El, Clark slash Superman. In this, he actually is their first natural birth in, I think he said, centuries. So he goes down into that and he takes the codex. It's like the skull, and it has like the registry of all the babies that will be born. He sends the codex off with his son Kal-El, and the pod warps off, to eventually end up in Earth. General Zod comes in and kills him and everything like that right before Kal-El leaves the planet. After that, they have a trial and everything, because Zod and his people, his group, is defeated, and so they send them into the Phantom Zone, and then right after that, pretty much, Krypton explodes. Years go by, and Kal-El, who is known as Clark Kent, played by Henry Cavill in this, he is in hiding. He's trying to hide away and not show that he's an alien and all the things that he could do and things like that. Something that was really beat into his head as a kid by his father, Pa Kent, which is Jonathan Kent, played by Kevin Costner. He really got it beat into his head that he shouldn't reveal himself, or at least not yet, until I guess the Earth is ready for him. And he'll do great things at that point, but he can't help himself from still saving people and things like that. So Clark, he ends up finding this ship that was a scout ship that was left on Earth, and then it's in the ice. It's been there for, I believe, thousands of years, and he puts in the little piece that he has that has his house symbol on, the House of El symbol on it, and it activates the ship, and his father Jor-El's consciousness comes to him almost like a projection to tell him all about Krypton and everything that's been going on, and all that. Zod and his group, they've been around this whole time, right? Because they were freed from the Phantom Zone once the Krypton exploded, and so they've been using the Phantom energy, I guess, to warp around and go around to all the different scout sites of different planets. After Clark activated this ship, it sent out a beacon, so that's how they were able to find him. So they end up going to Earth and they do this broadcast, and everybody on Earth can see it. And Zod is basically like, "Hey, you have one of ours, and you need to turn him over to us." I do think that it it shot well. I don't like and this goes for a lot of Zack Snyder movies, I don't like the muted colors. I don't like the color palette in certain scenes. Like, I don't like that Krypton is just kind of ugly. Like, I don't like Krypton at all in this movie. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But Krypton's ugly, and then you have the stuff going on Earth, and it just looks bland. It's like colorless, other than in certain scenes where he has this blue color palette going on, where like when he turns himself into the government, it's all blue, and he talks to Lois Lane, who's was doing an investigation into him and things like that, after she also found that scout ship. That's all blue, and I didn't like that. But when it comes to the shot composition, like, there are some really cool looking great shots in this. Like when Superman flies, there's also those moments where he's like up in the sky and he's looking down at the at the military and talking to them and things like that, or meeting up with them. As far as the performances, I do think the performances are bland and flat, a good amount of them. But there are some actors that shine through. I think Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, and Lawrence Fishburne, specifically when it comes to our major characters here. I think they shine through and they're still great. Like, I love Lois Lane in this. Other than the romance between her and Clark, I don't think they have chemistry. I don't think that works. But seeing her do her little reporter thing, her investigative reporter stuff, where she's having these back and forth with the military that's trying to keep her from knowing too much or getting information. Her writing this piece on an alien among us and everything after she has actually has an encounter with Clark. And Perry White being like, nah, I don't want you running that. And then she immediately leaks it and she comes back in and he's giving her shit. And he's like, 2 weeks without pay. And she's like, all right. and he's like, actually 3 weeks since you're being so agreeable. Like, I like that stuff. Like the day-to-day stuff with the Daily Planet. I thought that stuff really worked. And I liked Amy Adams and Lawrence Fishburne in this. Michael Shannon, General Zod, I think he does a great job. I think unlike a lot of the characters in here, he's able to have emotion. Like, I believe everything he says. And like, he's very much in the right early on, like to the point where they have to come up with this thing where it's like, oh no, he wants to like, cut off certain bloodlines and things like that. It's like, that feels like you want to really solidify him being a villain, and the situation with him and Jor-El and them having their fight. But as far as like him coming in and like taking over, it's like, it's fully understandable that he would do that. And he has this devotion to Krypton, even after Krypton's been destroyed, right? He's willing to forsake Earth and humanity for his planet and for his people, and to keep them going. Like, yeah, he's going about it in a bad way because he's going to wipe us out, humanity. But I believe it and I understand it. There's some interesting things that they do here. Like, I like the flashback. For the most part, I like the flashbacks, other than one of them, and we'll talk about that one. But I like the flashback where he's starting to get used to this, to his like heightened senses, like his X-ray vision and stuff like that. And it's like actually like driving him crazy. And he runs out of class, goes into the closet. His mom has to come talk to him. The dialogue is still bad in that scene.
How can I help you if you won't let me in?
The world's too big, Mom.
Then make it small.
But I thought that was an interesting way of having Superman's powers in this, to where it negatively affects him and he has to like learn how to adapt. And then also it's used in the fights that he has against Zod and Feora and like their group, because he's able to, he messes up their little helmet thing. And so then they start to like, get everything at once and X-ray vision and everything. And they actually have to retreat after that. Like when he first starts to fight Zod in Smallville, and then when he fights Feora. And that's the way that he kind of like, wins that fight kind of against her. I like that stuff. And even the stuff where he goes on the ship and the ship is adapted to Krypton. It's like it has Krypton's environment on the ship. So he starts to kind of like cough blood and things like that because he's not used to it, and it's very different from Earth. And he's starting to lose his powers. So I like that too. Like, there's some good things in here when it comes to the powers and things like that. I really like the Hans Zimmer score. That's probably it as far as positives. When you get to negatives, like, we got to start off with Krypton. So Krypton doesn't make any sense. I already said I don't really like the way it looks. Also, the sci-fi feels kind of like lame and kind of generic, like almost like, other than those dick rockets that Zod and them get sent up into, they're not really distinct. Like the guns and the blast that comes from the guns and things like that, and their different technology. Like, I kind of like the little bead thing that they do that like, they use to communicate. And then also like when Jor-El's telling Kal-El about all the stuff that happened on Krypton, it's like playing behind him. I kind of like that, but for the most part, like the sci-fi stuff, all the stuff on Krypton, it's just kind of uninspired to me. It doesn't really work. But that aside, like the storytelling when it comes to Krypton, we spend so much time on Krypton, and Krypton makes no sense. And they hold things back just so that they can have exposition dumps from Jor-El and from Zod explaining things later on. So right from the beginning, I'm thinking to myself, okay, you guys know that the planet is doomed. You know that it's going to explode. Why aren't you doing something about it? Why aren't you trying to get out of there? And they say like they can't evacuate, but they don't really go into detail as to why.
There are habitable worlds within reach. We can begin by using the old outposts.
Are you seriously suggesting that we evacuate the entire planet?
No. Everybody here is already dead.
Jor-El later on says that I guess basically he feels guilt and he feels like he should have to die with the planet based on, them basically killing it because I think they were mining the core of the planet and then so it became unstable, so it was going to explode or something like that. But like they don't really go into detail. Like they're really just going to sit around and just wait to die. And it's like, what? Does it make any sense? And I already said with the Zod thing, right? It makes sense for him to come in and take over and things like that. But, then it just turns into this battle and, they lose, but they just kind of lose out of nowhere, even though it seems like they're doing well and they're taking over. And he has the whole thing where he wants to cut off certain bloodlines. It's like, you didn't really need that. You just need to add that extra bit of villainy, which you really didn't need. But, the whole thing with the codex and, it's like a skull and it's got like the registry on it. And like whenever they make their babies, create their babies with the codex, they have predetermined it's predetermined what they're going to be, like a worker or whatever, and it's like that feels like didn't really need to be in this. They have enough time to have this whole war and everything with Zod, to then sentence Zod and his people to his group to the Phantom Zone and lock them up in there. They have enough time to do all that, but they don't have time to at least be starting to evacuate the planet. The movie's just a mess structure-wise. You spend all that time with Krypton and all that. To then, go over to Clark when he's older. So years have gone by, and he's working on a boat. He ends up saving those people on that rig. I do like that Superman goes out of his way to save people, even though, it puts him at risk of being discovered. Even when he's in hiding, he's going through all these different jobs. He still goes out of his way to save people. He just can't help it. I like that. I think that works for Superman, even though a lot of this doesn't work for Superman. I think that aspect really does. But you go from that to the flashback of his senses going crazy and his mom having to calm him down and teach him to focus, which I like that. But then you go to him getting clothes after everything that happened on that rig where he saved those people, and he sees a school bus, and then he thinks about that time where he saved, the bus when it went into that over the bridge and into that lake, and like he saved that kid that was bullying him, and so later on, like he helps him up when he's getting bullied by some other people. It just feels messy. Right, it feels like it's like, okay, we have all the stuff with Krypton, then we have all this stuff that happens in present day, and then we like drip these flashbacks into points of the movie, and the only one that really feels like it absolutely makes sense for where it's at is when they're at Jonathan Kent's grave, and then you get that flashback of how his father, his Earth father, died, which is ridiculous. It's the worst flashback in this. I like the other flashbacks for the most part, other than I don't really like the characterization of Pa Kent in this, where he's just so fixated on Superman not saving anybody, even though he has been saving people, and there hasn't really been that much that's happened. There's a lady that thinks that it's an act of God or whatever after he saves the bus. But that's about it. But they're in a car, they're arguing. The argument isn't great. Pa Kent is all about like, oh, you need to wait till the right time, and you're gonna do this and this and be all this important. But he wants them to stay there and be a farmer. Anyway, so they're arguing, and Henry Cavill's playing himself. There's a younger actor. There's two younger actors that play younger Clark, but in this, it's Henry Cavill. And the way they make him seem younger is that he just talks with a higher pitched voice. It sounds terrible, but he he basically just watches his dad die because there's a tornado that comes, and then they get out of the cars, everybody runs, and then Jonathan Kent, he goes back for the dog, and then he broke his ankle or something, and so he couldn't come back, and so he just waits to die basically and tells Clark, no, stay there. And it's like he saved people before this and after this. It doesn't make sense that he would just sit there and watch his father die. He could have went and got the dog himself instead of his father. But anyway, that's easily the worst flashback. It's supposed to be like, oh, he's sacrificing himself for his son to protect his son and protect his identity from getting out there and what he could do and everything. But it comes off as ridiculous. It doesn't have the desired effect. You have all this, the flashbacks and all this other stuff. Lois Lane is doing stuff, right? There's probably, even though I like the stuff with Lois Lane, there's probably a little too much of it, because By the time you get to Clark putting on the suit, him basically becoming Superman and having the first flight, even though I think it's cool, I think it's well done visually and things like that. I don't feel invested in him. Basically, they should have had him, have actual connections with people while he's on the run and going from place to place, so that we can get more characterization of him kind of like having rapport with people. Because in this, it seems like the only people he cares about are Lois Lane, right? They forced that romance with very little to no chemistry. And he cares about his mom. Obviously, his dad's dead. He cares about his mom. And then he somewhat cares about Jor-El when he's talking to him. His consciousness is talking to him on the ships and things like that. That's about it. I mean, there even it even comes to the point where he's about to sacrifice himself, basically turn himself into Zod. And he's like, well, I don't think I can trust Zod, but I don't think I can trust Earth either. And it's like, he doesn't seem like he has a connection to Earth or to people. There's not much characterization of him because of everything that's going on, exposition dumps and everything. But he's also just kind of robotic and he feels distant. He's not likable, right? Like he tries to get the military on his side by basically throwing his weight around. He's like, when he finally turns himself into the government, he's like, oh, well, you guys are afraid of me because you can't control me. You can't, and you never will. And it's like, why even say that? Right? At the end of the movie, he takes out this drone that's following him, that they're trying to keep surveillance on him. And, he's basically like got demands against, you can't see where I hang my cape. And I was like, there's no likability. There's no connection there. So it really does ring hollow when he's really, going against Krypton for Earth. The dialogue is so bad to go along with these bland performances. The dialogue is really bad and overdone, but especially by these two dads, the Earth dad and the Krypton dad of Clark / Kal-El. I mean, it is really bad because it has this for one, like they're just bland, especially Kevin Costner. They're just bland when it comes to their performance. It's like emotionless and everything. But they really feel like they need to hype their boy up, like Pa Kent being like, "Oh, you're gonna do this thing, you're gonna do this thing, you're important, right? You need to hold off until the Earth is ready for you because when you're really gonna change the world and do all this other stuff." And then the worst of it with Russell Crowe with Jor-El, where he's like. He's like, basically, you will lead these people. You will lead them into the sun. You can show them who to be. You can do this and that. It is obnoxious. It is way too much.
You just have to decide what kind of man you want to grow up to be, Clark, because whoever that man is, good character or bad, he's going to change the world.
They will race behind you. They will stumble. They will fall. But in time, they will join you in the sun, Cal.
They're hyping him up like crazy to a ridiculous degree. And then you also have the Jesus stuff where Zack Snyder really wants you to look at Superman like Jesus. He randomly, for really no reason, before he turns him into the government to then be turned into Zod, he goes to a church and talks to a priest. For no reason. It hasn't been set up. He's not religious. His parents haven't been set up to be religious. He just goes there. And of course, we have Jesus behind him in the shot. Got to make sure you have that. And then when he talks to Jor-El in the ship, this is after he did all this stuff. Like he put his consciousness is in the ship that Zod and them had, and Zod's already talked to Superman at this point. This is after he turns himself in, and Jor-El has done all this stuff with Lois Lane. She's in a pod and stuff like that. But after he talks to him and tells him like, "Oh, you're so important. You're going to do this, you do that," and basically what I was just talking about. He floats out into space, and he's in the Christ pose. It's like, man, this is so on the nose. This is so overdone, man. And I was like, wow, you really focused on him being Jesus. Take this out of here. You have a better movie. You take this out of here. It doesn't need to be here. So this movie really, really starts to get bad by the ending. It feels like it has the longest third act of all time. So he flies down and he fights Feora and the other big one. I forgot his name. In Smallville, and there's a bunch of product placement. We're fighting in IHOP and and we get Sears there and stuff like that. And this is where you start to see like, okay, yeah, this is like, it's visually fun to see these fight scenes, but the CGI is questionable. Like it does feel like you're watching somebody play like the tie-in video game for the movie at points because the CGI just doesn't look that great. But it is just the beginning of nothing but noise and explosions and boom bang, and there's no real stakes either, other than like the people that Superman doesn't seem to care about at all. Like when Superman first flies into Zod, when he first comes down from the ship to protect his mom, because Zod goes to get the codex from his family home, the Kent home. He flies them into like a concrete structure and then causes a bunch of explosions. It's like, okay, Superman did that. Like, so if anybody died in that, Superman caused that. He doesn't seem to care about the people at all, but he's doing all this to protect them. It just, there's a disconnect. So you get that fight, which even that fight goes on for too long. But like, okay, it's superficially fun, and I like that he takes out. He takes out Zod's helmet, and then Zod runs away, and then Faora, that's how he ends up kind of winning, at least winning against her because she's beating his ass. Basically, Zod and his people, they're going to use the I believe it was called the World Engine, and it's going to split up into two pieces, and it's going to go on either side of the Earth, and it's going to terraform the Earth into Krypton. So, and then they're going to use the Codex to remake Kryptonians. So then they basically take over Earth and bring Krypton back basically on Earth. So Superman has to take out one of them, and then they're also going to take out the other one, but the military is going to be involved in Lois Lane. And the idea is because the Superman's pod used like the warp energy or whatever, and so does this World Engine ship. So they're going to collide them, drop the pod on it, and they'll collide, and they'll turn into like pretty much a black hole and suck them into the Phantom Zone, which if they were released from the Phantom Zone from Krypton being destroyed, I don't know how they would be trapped in the Phantom Zone with Krypton gone. They don't really go into detail there. But Superman is really putting himself at risk because in taking out this other part that's terraforming the Earth, because it's turning the Earth more into Krypton, like he's starting to lose his powers, just like he did on that ship. Now the sun is still there, so he should still be getting the sun's rays and still be able to and still have power. But okay, like it's still an interesting thing, right? I mean, it's him flying away from like tentacles coming out of it and stuff like that. It's not all that cool. But it's like, all right, I guess it's okay. And then, the military's on the other side dealing with the other ones and Faora and stuff like that. They get sucked up. But it's so much destruction, right? Like with the World Engine, lifting people up and cars and slamming them down. Buildings are falling down on people. You got Perry White and them running away from buildings falling down. And it is nuts. It's crazy. It's way too much. I mean, it's noise and destruction. You get numb to it by the end, right? You really do. After they've destroyed like the two sides of like the World Engine or whatever, stop the terraforming. We still have to have that final fight scene with Superman and Zod. And you have Superman fully being like, what, Krypton had its chance, and making it to where like, okay, yeah, you can't, you're not going to be able to bring back Kryptonians. You're not going to be able to have the Krypton babies come out of the pods or whatever, like they did on Krypton. And so they fight. Zod has a suit on at first. They're fighting as if Metropolis hasn't been through enough with the World Engine and everything, right? Where people are trapped under rubble and having buildings fall on them and all these other things. Now they're causing explosions. They're punching each other into buildings. They're flying into buildings. Zod has gotten used to and been able to focus now with his senses, so now he can, fly and fight Superman and all this other stuff. At one point, they go up into space, destroy a satellite, and then they come back down, almost like a meteor, and like crash into buildings and things like that. It is so much destruction, and like I said, Superman seems to not care about the people at all. So then, once it gets to the point where he's about to snap Zod's neck, which I would be okay with, but within context, it's like, okay, it's still kind of dumb because, like, I've seen them punch each other and kick each other and things like that, and not get a scratch. They seem invincible even fighting each other. It's just like they're just fighting and fighting. It really is like Zack Snyder smashing them together, like action figures. But when he snaps his neck, he's just like snap. It's like it seems so easy based on like what I saw before. It doesn't seem like it would be. It almost seems like it would be impossible because they haven't been able to really do real damage to each other. I mean, Superman has just been tossed around, smashed around, and everything by Faora and Zod and things like that, and he doesn't seem injured at all by the end. So it's like, you know, the way that the fact that you can just snap his neck, and then he snaps his neck to keep him from using his heat vision, which I didn't mention. I like that the veins come out with the heat vision. I kind of like that. But he was going to use his heat vision to kill some family, and so you know, it's Superman having to make that choice to like actively kill one of his own people to save humans. But like you've seen, been part of, and caused a good amount of destruction that has killed a lot of people, and you haven't really seemed to care all that much before. So what you screaming and yelling for now? Why are you taking this step to snap his neck now? It's like, you know, really, it feels like the fight could go on forever until he finally snaps his neck. It's almost like they were like, we got to end this at some point. Well, I don't know. He's threatening some family, snap his neck. I don't know. It's like, it's crazy. It's so much. You get numb to it. It's just so much destruction and explosions and noise. And it's way too fucking much. It feels like I said, the longest third act of all time. And then you have the ending where he's, you know, I don't know how much time has passed, but he's Clark Kent. Basically, he's got the glasses on. He's actually going to work at the Daily Planet. And they're acting like it's just another day at work, right? Like one of them comes in, oh, I got courtside seats, Lois, and then he comes in, he's introducing himself. It's like nothing's happened, right? Either that, or it's been so long that I guess they've been able to rebuild and get back to normalcy. I mean, after all that I just saw, it's like this would have to be years and years later. After all I just saw, for everybody to be this casual. It's the ending of this movie is really bad. It doesn't work. It's a boring, bland ass movie with interesting moments, interesting things, and some over the top, but some good action. I do see why people would like it if that's something that you're into, like a more serious Superman that you could take more seriously. Like if you're one of the people that looks at the new movie and like, oh, this is goofy. Oh, we got a cartoon dog. Like I fully understand why you like this. This is way more up your alley. But yeah, you know, I don't think it's bad, but I also don't feel like it's as good as I thought it was, because I thought it was okay. Like, oh, you know, this is, I guess, pretty good. Now I'm fully in the idea of this is mediocre, and it feels like a failed experiment when it comes to making a darker Superman story. It doesn't work. But then you use this as a foundation for an entire a DC Comics franchise, and that was a mistake. It doesn't work, man. It's bad at its foundation. So of course the DCEU just couldn't work, and I'm glad they're starting things over with the DCU. We'll see how that new Superman movie is. I don't know yet because I haven't seen it. But anyway, yeah, I'm giving it a rental. Mediocre, especially when it comes to the ending. The ending is just so bad. I mean, it really nosedives after that. After a certain point, once we get to the end. Anyway, yeah, that's Man of Steel, rental, and we're done.